Yeah, and this week on the Sportzone, I'm absolutely delighted that we've got the secretary of the King Alfred Bowling Club, Dave Whitehead. How are you doing, Dave?
Very well, Tony. It's nice to see you again. After 12 months ago, it must be, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were one of the first guests on Sportzone, Dave, and I did a bit of research before this little Zoom link, and it was round about the 21st of August, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, true. Bit nervous at the time, but I quite enjoyed it, I must admit.
Well, let's hope we enjoy this one as well, Dave. Right, mate. So, yeah, the last year has been absolutely unbelievable, obviously, with COVID and everything. So before we get into that, Dave, I just want the listeners to understand what exactly is bowls, and is that the right title for it? Is it Crown Green Bowling? Is it just bowls? And what's involved in a game of bowls?
Yeah. So there is two types of bowls, really. There's flat green bowls and there is crown green bowls. Flat green bowls is what you would see on the TV, where they just bowl up and down a rink. And our game, crown green bowls, is what it says. It's played on a green which has a crown in the middle, so it's got a bit of a hump in the middle, might have a few gullies, etc. And in our game, you can bowl across the corners, you can bowl across the width of the green, you can bowl wherever you like, whatever suits you. So if you're a keen corner bowler, you might chuck a long length and a small lengths, etc. There is minimum lengths you can bowl to the rules, which is 19 metres. But the basis of the game is similar in both games. It's just to bowl your balls as near to the jack as you possibly can. So you would stand with your foot on the footer, the rubber mat. You would set the mark with your jack, and then you attempt to bowl your wood as close to that jack as you possibly can. Your opponent then has to try and get closer than you do. And you have two balls each. And the simple thing is, if you get one nearest the jack better than your opponent, you score 1 point. If you get two nearest the jack more than your opponent, you get 2 points. And the game continues on, and the first person to score 21 wins the game. So you can win 21-20, it can be quite close like that. And in general, we have 4 games going on the green at the same time. So that'll be 8 players on the green at once. So right. Is that clear enough?
Yeah, that's very detailed, Dave. Yeah. So how many players are in a team then when you have a league match?
Yeah. So this is a good question, really, because in general, prior to COVID, there was always 12 players in a team.
All right.
So that would mean, like, your first four would go on and play, your second four would go on and play, third four, so get all your 12 games in. But since COVID, to get the season back on all leagues, to get the season back on track, I've just gone back to 8 players per team at the minute. So it gets it over quick. And one of the reasons was initially with the COVID protocol, you could allow so many people within a bowling green area and on a green, but basically it's 12. And now we've just had meetings now, because all the leagues have just finished actually last night. And we've had meetings to see how we're going to go in the future, whether we're going to stick with 8, go to 12, or possibly compromise with 10. So that's sort of, it's all in the balance at the minute on how many people clubs have interested.
And does each individual just play one match?
Yeah. So the individual plays one match for the team. So you'll have a team 1 to 12. And the thing about bowls is your best player is always number 1. So based on his previous week's performances, the team changes, but the person with the best aggregate or most wins always plays number 1. So that's a good thing of bowls, I think.
And do you have to prove that sort of statistically, or can you sort of, I don't know, play a ringer at number 4 sometimes or something?
No. So our selection, we have now everything's done electronically. So people's scores go into the website every week. The website does all the calculations for you, and it comes up and tells you what your team is really for this week.
Wow.
So the person with the most wins and the best wins will end up being number one always. So you can't cheat. You can't put a ringer in. If you put a ringer in, he goes bottom man because he hasn't played and he hasn't got an aggregate.
Right. So the computer chooses your team basically.
Well, it does. I mean, obviously, you have to give it some selection thought on who's on holiday, who's sick or whatever, and who's lost. Maybe you might drop them into another team. But yeah, now, well, it's the same as in the old days. You would do it all by hand. So, the secretary or would have to do his team's aggregates by hand. So it was quite onerous. But now it's all done for you with fancy computers and stuff. So yeah, it's good.
Now, this might be an obvious question, Dave, but I do assume that you do play at the King Alfred pub.
Yeah. So the King Alfred Bowling Green is adjacent to the King Alfred Bowling Club on Walney, and it has been there. Well, the pub's been there for over 100 years now, and the bowling green's been there about the same length of time. And so it's a really historical sort of bowling green. And I have to say that, I don't know, a few years ago we were a little bit up in the air. They might be selling the pub, this, that and the other, and we were a bit panicky whether we might end up with houses on the pub and stuff. On the pub and the green. But I would like to pay credit to the Mulgrews who own the caravan site on Molly. They bought the pub and they've been a massive support to us as a bowling club.
All right, that's fantastic.
So we're in a good place at the minute.
Well, at one time, Dave, it was Mr. Elephant, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. At one time, it became an Indian restaurant, and it was Mr. Elephant, and we actually all wore our shirts with an elephant on the chest, because he sponsored us or whatever. But, yeah.
Now, I'm assuming that our mate Keith Mills is still a groundsman, is he, Dave?
Yeah. So Keith, he's not only groundsman, he's chairman at the minute. So our
so he's your boss,
companion. He's on the committee with me. So Keith and I do a lot of organising, but Keith is without a doubt, one of the hardest workers I know. He's the groundsman. He's cutting the green daily. Not only does he cuts the hedges and everything like that. He's mad for it.
Wow. and I did some research, as I said, Dave, and there's actually a sort of a protocol in keeping the greens to a certain standard as well. So I'm assuming that he's going to be very, very sort of meticulous in how he does it, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to say that the King Alfred, due to all Keith's hard work, is probably one of the best greens in Cumbria. Teams often come here out of the county, or people just come on holiday in the pub and they sit there in amazement at the quality of the surface. Yeah, so Keith, it's a daily chore for him. He's there every day, titivating it, spiking it, feeding it, watering it. It's not just cutting grass like you cut your lawn out the back. It's a labour of love, believe me.
Well, the only disappointment there, Dave, is when the three of us used to play Sunday League at the Queen's Hotel on the St. James's pitch. Why didn't he tell us then he was good at cutting grass?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Happy days.
Right, Dave. So I presume you're in a league. And what sort of league is it? Is it a barrow league or does it go across the whole of Furness?
Yeah. So if you want, so the King Alfred itself has, if we consider the King Alfred at the minute with 8-man teams, so there's a Furness league and we had 4 teams in that Furness league. Now that Furness league stretches from Walney, from us on Walney all the way to Kirby, Askham, Lindell, Glaxo. So that's as far as it goes, is Kirby in that up the coast and say Glaxo and Ulverston area. Yeah. We don't play past there. We have an Ulverston league which plays on a Wednesday, which it did start as an Ulverston league, but now that's just really the same as Furness league, which plays on a Wednesday. We have on a Monday night, we have a Walney league, which just is teams from Walney going South End Caravan site have a team in it. Walney Park, North Scale, and Barrow Island are actually in that league. So
they're not Walney.
Sorry,
they're not Walney.
Well, they're not Walney, but yeah, they're sort of stretched into it, yeah. And well, if you want me to bore you on, we have men's seniors. They play twice a week on a Monday and Tuesday. We have 3 ladies teams which play on a Wednesday afternoon, on a Tuesday night, and then we have a ladies seniors who play on a Thursday lunchtime. So all in all, that's like 14 teams that we have playing on the King Alfred.
Wow!
So you can imagine the amount of players. We probably have about 100 members that we have to select from in different. Some want to play all 3 leagues. Some just want to play in 1 league. So yeah, selection's quite a turmoil.
So you could be playing like what, 3 nights, 3 days a week, is it?
Yeah. I mean, there's players at the club that will play. Well, I can think of Eddie Backhouse, for instance. I'll mention he would play for the seniors, so he'd play Monday afternoon. He'll play for the Walney Monday evening. He'll play for the Ulverston on a Wednesday, and then he'll play for Furness on a Saturday. So he plays a minimum of 4 times a week, I would say.
Is he the Ronaldo of the King Alfred? Is he?
No, and following on from that, every Sunday there's a competition somewhere. So most of the top guys will go and enter a competition, and there's quite some substantial prize money to be won. In fact, Sunday there was one at the West Shore Club just up the road. Roy Moxon won it, £500 to the winner. So,
wow,
if you're, some good money to be won if you're decent.
yeah. So how many teams are actually in those leagues, Dave? Are we talking half a dozen or?
No. So each of those leagues will have when we went down to 8 this time, I think there was 12 in each league, something like that.
Oh, right.
So for instance, we had 4 teams because they were 8-man. So we actually ended with the rearrangement just for COVID. We ended up with a team in each division, 1 in the first division, 1 in the second division, third division, and 4th division. So,
so there's 4 divisions, is there?
So with the 8-man teams, we went to 4 divisions. Wow. Yeah.
What, promotion, relegation, and?
Well, not for this year. For this year, because it was just getting back on the, on the saddle or whatever, and getting things in place. But normally there would be 3 leagues when there's 12 in a team, and that would be 2 up, 2 down.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So.
And I'm assuming that you play these only in the summer. Then is a season like March to September or something like that?
Yeah, exactly that. If I just talk about the Furness League, which is probably the major league, that starts always the first Saturday in April and usually finishes about, say, the last week of September. Then there'll be a few playoffs and things like that. But Greens would open in March, probably get 2 or 3 weeks before the season, and then close again 2 or 3 weeks after the season. Yeah, so it is like you say, it's a summer game. Yeah. I mean, there is. Well, sorry, if I butt in there, there is in some counties they do have like a winter league, so they might have a club that's got 2 or 3 greens, and they might just keep 1 green and play on it through the winter or whatever. And you see them all there in Father Christmas hats and messing about. You know what I mean? It's not my cup of tea. I hibernate for the winter. Yeah. But some people love the game that much that they continue to play.
Is there any indoor bowling facilities in Barrow where you can go and do a bit of sort of training during the winter?
Yeah. Well, it used to be quite common that they used to play at the leisure centre, and I think the leisure centre still have mats, but we don't have a local league as such that uses those mats. I do know for a fact that Barrow Island Social Club, the community club that they've got there, they have practice afternoons where anybody can go along, pay a couple of quid, get a cup of tea, have a game, and they organise little games and that sort of thing. So, so they're doing very well at Barrow Island.
Now, the age profile, Dave, I'm assuming it's more at the senior end, but how old?
Steady.
Well, I mean, typically it was always something that you sort of did when you retired a little bit. There was always an older generation, but I'm assuming there are some youngsters as well involved there.
Yeah. Not enough, I would say, but I would say the probably average age, probably like you say, is probably in the 50s to 60s, really. But it is I like to stick up for it because it is a game where a kid of 11 can play against a guy of 92. It is. I mean, we have some pensioners. One of our pensioners is 90 today, I think, or tomorrow, or whatever. But they're still playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have young Ethan Loudon, who's actually playing in our first team this year. He's really come on nicely, and he's like 16, just left school. So So there is no age limit, but probably you're right that most people are in the. I would say people don't start now when they retire. You know, most people are starting when they're in the 40s, or maybe like I did when you play football or sport and you're looking for something to do when you're 30. Then come and have a go.
Still playing football, then, Dave. I mean,
Well, I know. But,
so, who teaches the youngsters then? Is there a coaching setup? Do you do any coaching yourself, Dave? Or is it just sort of, mate, I'll just show you a few things. This is what you need to understand, blah, blah, blah. Or is there like a professional level of coaching?
Not professional as such, but we do have, there is coaches within each county, and those you can organise for those coaches to come to your green, and you can get 12 of your members, and he will give your members coaching in the game. He'll explain the laws of the game, things like that. You know what I mean? For the young lad coming through, his dad's a very, very, very good bowler at our club, so he'll have been coached by his dad, and then every day that he's there, some of the lads that are there practicing will give him a game and sort of teach him a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I mean, I would say from my point of view, when I first started bowling, you always went up and there was always a few old cocks that would say, "Come on, son, I'll give you a game here. I'll show you. Here's a good mark for you," and they'd show you the green and teach you the green, you know. And I think probably that's the best way to learn is to practice with a good old member.
Yeah, it's one of those games, Dave, that, we all dabbled when we were younger with bowls, and I think used to go to the park quite regularly. They had some bowling greens. I think they still have, actually. And,
they still have, yeah.
And it was just one of those things that you had to keep playing it to get better at it. That's, you know what I mean? I mean, if you've been doing it 40 years, Dave, you should be pretty good.
Yeah, well, I was quite good. I'm getting past it now.
I thought you were getting to your peak.
No. Well, you get a bit older, don't you? You lose your suppleness and your, and your coordination and stuff. You've lost me plot now. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. So the thing with crown green bowls is also you can sort of learn your own green, but bearing in mind you've got to go and visit all your away team greens. All greens, because like I said before, they've got a big hump in the middle. Some have got a few gullies here. Some are bigger than others. You have to learn those greens as well. So it takes you maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years before you get confident to go away on other greens. So you might win all your home games because you're confident on your home green, but when you go away, it's a different kettle of fish. You've got to, And statistically, does that actually happen, Dave, when you look at the stats that people have got good home records, but it's very difficult away from home? Without a doubt. I mean, you can. Ours is a very good home green, but if you look at Lindell, for instance, which is a quirky green with the slopes all the way to the cricket pitch, it's very, very, very difficult to play, and they'll probably get players who never lose on the home green. It's just that difficult, you know what I mean? Kirby's very difficult green. North Scale, they're all strange shapes, big humps in the middle, drop off edges, so it's a definite home as greens.
So Dave Whitehead can't turn up at Lindell and say, I've just come for a bit of practice on your green, so I improve my away average.
No, you can't do that. No. Well, you can join the club and become a member if they'll accept you as a member, and you can go and practice there if you will.
They'll smell a rat there, Dave. You can't do that.
Naughty.
Hey, it's fine margins like any sport, Dave.
No, it is. You're right.
Now, you've mentioned there that you got 100 members, Dave, from youngsters to older people up to 90. I mean, the COVID situation that sort of stopped everything, that must have had a massive impact on people's social, mental health, if you like. And have you actually witnessed that as being secretary over those 18 months, the impact on people?
Yeah, without a doubt. So really, 2020, the bowl season just didn't even happen, just got scrapped completely. Then we came to 2021 and things were trying to get relaxed. So we were allowed to say open the green for just for practice. So we'd have the usual thing, track and trace, and people would have to book an appointment to go and practice. So we could only allow a minimum of 4 people inside the green. Obviously, we requested them to wash all the bowls and wash the mats and not use the kitchen, that sort of thing. And then gradually, by about the end of March, you were allowed, like I said before, you were allowed, say, 8 people or 16 people in the facility. So that's when they started to start the leagues up again. But yeah, there was some members within the club that weren't quite ready to come out of hibernation, if you will, and sort of socialise. But slowly now, I would say, now everyone's double jabbed. Everybody seems happy. It is an outdoor sport, so people aren't crammed into spaces. They can, they can keep the distance. So I wouldn't say I've seen anybody really stressed out, but yeah.
You kept an eye out for them, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I had Emma Armstrong on the other week. She plays for Ulverston South Lakes hockey team. And the interesting remark that she said, Dave, was that it wasn't just a sport for her, it was a family. And I'm assuming it's a similar thing in bowls. It's very sociable, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. We had a meeting last night. It's like to discuss whether we're going to go for 8s or 10s or 12s next year. And because we've been playing 8s, it's just been a matter of getting there, playing. It's been over in an hour and a half, and everybody goes home again. Whereas, bowls. Nearly every bowling green's got a pub adjacent to it, so it is quite a social day out. So I'm keen, or we're keen, the King Alfred, just to go back to 12-man teams and get more crack and get everybody having a few drinks after the game. And it's exactly what the lass was saying there. It is like a family, and we do sort of look after each other, and we have during the COVID situation, yeah.
Now, in terms of finance, Dave, I mean, COVID must have had an impact financially as well as all the other issues you had to contend with. So I suppose the bottom line question here is, how do you survive financially?
Yeah, so the basics of our club is everybody obviously pays the membership fees, which at our club is £25, but £25 for a year, for a whole year's enjoyment is nothing, I don't think. So, and then we have fundraising, etc. throughout the year. The very, very, like I said before, the good thing for us is that the Mulgrews have been very generous to us. So we don't have a lot of rent to pay, but we do, as long as we look after the facility ourselves, which Millsy does more stuff, cutting the grass, and they've got something nice for their patrons to look out the window and sit on the patio and watch. They're all happy. So I have to say that we probably are very lucky. Even COVID, we collected everybody's membership fees, and they were all happy just to let it ride, even though they weren't playing. So we had the support of all our members. I would say that some clubs probably might not have been as lucky as us, but But I haven't heard of anybody really struggling.
So what about sponsorship, Dave? Do you invite sponsors?
Yeah. So we try and get as many sponsors as we possibly can, and we usually get them to sponsor a competition. So throughout the year, we'll have 3, 4, 5 competitions sponsored by, Little Tony's Tyres. Or am I allowed to name all my sponsors here? But anyway, for instance, and they'll also have an advertising hoarding around the bowling green, to advertise their business.
So if anyone's listening out there who's interested in sponsorship, that's the sort of return you can offer them. Hoardings, sponsoring a competition, getting the name on you. Do you have a kit sort of T-shirt or something? Or
So if this is my shirt.
Wow.
But this is we are sponsored by this is our King Alfred badge. So
wow.
So we are like really sponsored by the King Alfred.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't allow sponsorship from somebody on our shirts. I suppose we could get it on the back and everything else, couldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
for a bit of razzmatazz. But yeah, in general, you'll get a hoarding around the bowling green, competition named after you. On the day of the competition, you'll have leaflets. Also you have leaflets stuck in all the bowling clubs with the competition with your name as a sponsor on it. It'll be included in any literature that's utilised for that competition. Yeah.
What about grants, Dave? Do you get any grants from the governing bodies or anything?
There is grant. Well, yeah, there is grants. So yeah, I must admit, Mills is our man for grants. So basically, we have had some quite handsome grants from the local council or the local sports council or local councillors to get grants from, say, Sport England. It's quite an onerous task to do, and you have to jump through hoops. We've never needed that much vast amounts of money personally, but whenever we've needed to build the toilet block or to get some new seating, we've always managed to get grants from local councillors or the local sports council.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of spectators and that, Dave, I mean, is there an unlimited amount of people can come and watch? What sort of attendance do you get?
Yeah. So, well, it can vary. So it depends on the if it's a top of the league clash, for instance, you might get other people from other clubs coming to see how it goes on. If it's like a big competition, like was at the weekend when I said Roy Moxon won £500, there might be 40 or 50 people there to watch that on a sunny day. If it's an horrible drizzly day, there might only be 10 there, you know what I mean? So it's all, it just depends on the situation, really. But for a normal match day, you probably might get about 6 or 10 spectators, usually family, husbands, wives, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And one question that just entered my head there was that when you turn up for a match, do you not know who you're going to be playing until the sort of team sheets come out? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's generally how it works. Nowadays, like I said before, because it's computerized and anybody can log into the Furness and District bowling website, and they can look at the averages and the wins of the opposing team, and they can say, "Oh, I'll be playing Fred Bloggs today." Now you don't know if Fred Bloggs might be on holiday, so when they turn up on Saturday, you might be playing somebody else. But in general, you're right. You don't really know who you play until the day. Yeah.
So where are you in the batting order, Dave? Are you an opener or?
Me? No, I'm sort of a middle order batsman, you know. Yeah.
Wow.
I used to be an opener. But there's new kids on the block, you know what I mean? The first team at the King Alfred is probably one of the strongest in the county, because we've got like Barry Loudon, Tony Whitehouse, Darren Woodend, and Martin Barrow. They're all Davy Jones. They're all play for the county regularly. So yeah, we've got a really good squad.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you, Dave. In terms of pathways to the county and even maybe national selection, do people come and watch a game and say, "Oh yeah, I'll pick Dave Whitehead, I'll put him in the Cumbria team or something"? Is that how it works?
No, not really. So we'd have like a county. The county have their own selection committee, and they'll generally be looking at who's winning all the big competitions, who's top of the averages for which leagues and things like that. Right. And so that those selection committee who are good bowlers anyway, who play regularly, they know who are the top men. So when they come to do the selection, they know who they're going to select. There's also the option, say, if they're playing at the King Alfred, a King Alfred bowler can't play in that game. He'd have to play away. So if you know you've got somebody who used to play on the King Alfred, who is a good bowler, you can select him to play on the King Alfred. So there's a horse for a course, you know what I mean? So sometimes there's that comes into it as well. But
so I'm assuming it is Cumbria, Dave, is it? Is that the county
it's Cumbria,
team?
yeah. So it's Cumbria.
And how often do they play?
So they would play 3 or 4 games a year. So in the county championship, they'll be drawn out to play in a little league, but like the Champions League, where there'll be like 4 clubs. Might be Northampton, Fylde, Manchester, and Yorkshire.
Oh,
and
right.
so on 4 Sundays in 4 different months, they'll have like 12 will play at home, 12 will play away. So they'll select select a tricky green like Lindell, like I said before, and they'll play at their home game on Lindell. Hopefully, try to catch the opponents out, and they'll select their best Lindell bowlers that they can find. Yeah.
So, have you ever played at county level, Dave?
Yeah, I played 25 years ago, maybe when I was at my best. I played about 5 games. Yeah.
What was that like then? Was it something special?
It was special, but it's quite daunting. Even though everyone thinks that bowls might be a serene game, you get selected to go. First game selected to go away to Greater Manchester, who were probably the best team in the country then, and all big club, big green. All the guys on the railings had all had about 6 pints, and they're all like going, "Go on, Baldy, short again," and they're sledging you in the background, and you're thinking, "Beam me up, Scott,"
All the Stretford enders on the wall.
No, so you've got to be able to handle not just the balls, you've got to be able to handle the sledging from the people that are all around you.
And what about national level, Dave? Is anybody getting an England? Is there an England team?
No. So in Crown Green Bowls isn't it doesn't go to national level, no. So
why is that?
It's just it's always been classed as a pastime, Crown Green Bowls, not really as a sport. So you might see in Commonwealth Games where flat green bowls is classed, where they all wear the whites and the white, etc. That's classed as a proper national sport. So they do have. They are supported by Sport England and the Commonwealth Games, etc. Yeah. So it's more of a professional thing, that. Yeah.
So, based on what you've said, Dave, it seems very vibrant. And I'm just asking the sort of last question now. What's the future hold then for the King Alfred Bowling Club and bowls in general? It seems to have a very sort of robust future.
Yes and no. I think as I said before, I went to a meeting last night, and after COVID, there is some people that have not chosen to come back and play bowls at the minute. Some chose to go off, maybe play a bit of golf, and then they've stayed in golf and not come back to bowls. As regards the King Alfred, we are pretty buoyant. We are fortunate. We've got a great club, and we have, like I say, 100 loyal members, really. But there is 1 or 2 clubs around the town that I got the feeling from last night that they're just struggling a little bit just for members.
Right.
Yeah, so it is a great sport, and I would like to reach out to the listeners just to say, if anybody fancies giving it a go, they can get in touch with me. via on my Facebook page or give me a ring, and I will arrange for them. They can come over to King Alfred. We can have a chat and they can have a practice, or I can point them in the direction of their nearest club. Whether if they live at Roos, they're obviously not going to want to come to King Alfred. I can arrange for them to go down to Roos and meet the people there and get involved. It's a good sport, young, old, male and female.
And the ones that used to play when we were young, Dave, are they still, like the Moxhams and that? They were the best in the town and that, weren't they? Are they still playing?
Yeah. So Roy Moxham, is still the master. He won that competition at the West Shore the other day, that £500. So even though he's like probably 70 now, he's still so fit, active, without a doubt. He's probably been the best over the last 2 decades consistently, without a doubt. Well, 3 decades, I should say.
So how come you've dropped down the league so much then?
Well, I was never as good as Roy anyway.
Oh, no. No, but you weren't bad, were you?
No, I've been okay in my time. Yeah.
So that's what I said before, Dave. You haven't peaked yet. You've got another 5 years.
Well, maybe so. Yeah. It's like Roy is very, very, very dedicated. Even now, he'll probably go and practice 3-4 days a week. You'll see him on Vickers just practicing on his own. Yeah. But I'm like just retired, fishing, doing things with my wife, holidays,
absolutely.
Maybe not as dedicated.
Yeah. Well, look, Dave, it's been great to see you again, mate, and thanks very much for coming on Can Do. And you've always been involved in bowls. I remember even when you were younger, and to still be doing it now is absolutely tremendous. So give everyone my regards, Millsy and the boys at the King Alfred, and I hope you go from strength to strength.
Okay, Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Okay, mate. Cheers, Dave.